So, this is the bee game of how it used to be. This is a lot simpler version than what I have. I have a lot simpler of a version than I did before. But there are many elements of this game that have carried over. You can see that there were a lot more images that weren't exactly what they were ended up becoming, because I hadn't found the websites that I ended up using. And as well, the player mat is that the field mat is not exactly as colorful as it was. Now, in this version, every player would secretly allocate what they'd be doing and then reveal. So on your turn, you would say, well, I'm going to stick 3 bees into building. I'm going to stick 3 bees into robbing. I'm going to stick 5 bees into foraging. And I'm going to stick the rest of these bees into robbing green because I don't like green. So I'm going to rob them. There was a different sequence of play as well. You would go through the waggle dance, which is roll the replenishment die. The replenishment die existed to see what types and colors of tile would replenish. So, for example, or this was the replenishment die. If red became exhausted, autumn became exhausted. It's now become red. If autumn became exhausted, you would roll the replenishment die. Z, R, flip. So you would roll the replenishment dice, and then R, all the reds would become unexhausted. All the autumn tiles would become unexhausted. So that's kind of what the waggle dance represented. But for the first turn of the game, you would roll the replenishment die, and that would be whose turn it was. Starting with player 1, each player declares an empty hex and places a random tile there. And you do this 3 times. Okay, so you would really, if you had 6 players, every turn 6 people would put down 3 tiles each. That would be 18 tiles a turn. That would be a lot of exploring. But the waggle dance, so scout didn't exist. Okay. See, I'm learning about how it used to be, just like you are. So the scout option never existed. On your turn, you would just automatically scout. You would just send bees out into the world. And now that scout exists, it's kind of a player choice and player determination whether or not you want to send bees out into the world to explore and to find out what's out there. Scouting also now lets you have the option to place tiles and get extra effect tiles, which didn't exist back here, back then. Pheromones. Assign tasks to each bee. Bees without tasks will default to guard. There's not really a point for that second half of the rule, but essentially, if you forgot to assign a bee, they would guard. So guarding would just be your defense against robbing. Place every robber on opponent's hive within 6 hexes of your hive. Yeah, so robbing was the outside rim. And building and guarding was internal. Foraging was external. So only 4 actions that you could do on your turn. Hive bees would act first. So every player would secretly mark what their turn was, and then all players would reveal. So now that you know what everyone's done, you go through in order. Hive bees. Discard any honey for building and increase your comb size accordingly. Now, you would know what your hive is doing, but everyone could see what was in your hive. So everyone knows what everyone else is doing, but everyone can see what's in your hive. This is how big your hive is. So you can fill all of this up. And every time you build, you remove a honey to get a comb. That's still the same. So okay. So everyone starts the game with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18. 18 comb and 18 hive. So you could spend 1, 2, 3 comb and go up 1, 2, 3 hive. Your hive would be everything before this. Your comb would be this and everything before it. Each bee dedicated to guarding. Each build bee is +1 defense. Each guard bee is +2 defense. Okay, so you might not want to build all that much, but you might want to guard a whole lot. Field bees in clockwise order start from starting player. Each player places 3 foragers. So blue would be able to put 3 foragers out into the world. He could put all of them on an autumn tile, which would exhaust it. And that's still a mechanic that's in here today. Except this game has become, the entire game is put 3 foragers out into the world, put 3 hive bees out into the world, put 3 field bees out into the world. So it's taken that forage mechanic, and that's become the central mechanic of the game, where every turn you dedicate 3 bees to an action. Cool. So, all bees collect once. All bees foraging within range 1 of the hive collect 1 additional time. Right. So, there would be a bonus for tokens that were near your hive. So, I could do that and collect both because it's right next to my hive. So, I'd get 1 + 1, 2, and the forager would return. Place all robbers in the designated hive. 4 strength equals 1 discard. Robbers in excess of defense rob 1 honey. So if I had green, who put if I had brown who put 15 bees into robbing green, and blue put 3 bees into robbing green, it would be 2 to 1. Where's green? Green. Let's say they put 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be a defensive 8. 8 versus 15, 16, 17, 18. All of the bees in excess would rob a honey. Could get you a lot of honey. If a player expanded their hive capacity and then filled in every comb with honey, they have 1. Okay. So if you build your hive up to maximum, which would take a very, very long time, and filled it all with honey, which would take a very, very long time, then you win the game. Players with the most bees win in ties. Honey consumption equals 4 over 1. Oh, and of course you have 15 bees in your hive. 15 divided by 4 round down means that you lose that much honey. So fundamentally in this iteration of the game, I was trying to map out each and every individual aspect of being a bee. Right? Because that was the goal. Now it's become more of a game, more simplified and streamlined in some ways, but also a lot better and a lot more likely to understand in some ways. Because there's no multiplication, no division, no addition, not really. Everything is 1 for 1, which makes for a much better game. And if everything is treated as 1, then it's a lot better. If lacking honey, discard 1 bee for every lacking honey. So there was a feeding rule where you had to feed your bees. And if you couldn't feed all of them, you lost the remainder. So if you had a whole bunch of bees and somebody came over and robbed all your honey, you could lose a whole lot of your hive because you couldn't feed them, which makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. But it becomes something extra for players to track. And if you have eat the consumption elements of the game, then that simplifies the game a whole lot and gives players fewer things to worry about and lets them focus on strategy more. Because as complicated as the bee game might seem at first glance now, it was a lot more complicated. And I think now is also a much better game. So it gets people into it more, it reflects beeality more, and it's a better game. So I'm happy to be ticking all 3 of those boxes. During replenishment, every turn you just get 2 bees, roll the replenishment die. If red, yellow, or blue, all the exhausted terrain of that color become unexhausted, and trees wouldn't exhaust. So barren, no honey grass, 1 honey, So even though I had weather, even though I had spring, summer, and autumn, I didn't really have weather. And some of those rules still precipitate over. Each terrain tile becomes exhausted when 2 or more bees forward from it. So this, even though it's autumn, would become exhausted at the end of the turn because 2 bees foraged from it. So the way this game would work is everyone secretly assigns their bees. You do all the hive bees, then you do all the field bees. And then it's next turn. Let's take a little look through the rules. So I removed temperature from this. And it became a lot weirder to track close to home, because that was the modifier of foraging close to your home. Still have the screen. Still screen. Same screen top. Shameless plug. Each player. Yeah. So this was a lot more like the Avalon Hill style, and a lot less like the style I've adopted now. Replenishment, terrain, but still getting all those rules down to 3 pages is pretty nice. Pheromone phase. Field bees are characterized by forage and rob actions. Foraging, robbing, and now it's the waggle dance has become scout. Maybe it should be called waggle dance again. Because that's what bees do every turn. In the beginning of the day, they'll send bees out. Those bees will explore, and they'll come home and they'll say, "Hey guys, waggle, 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 waggle." And also sing, 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 because even though we see it as a dance, it's really an indication that's done inside of the hive. So it's less of a dance and more of a sing. But guys, there's a good field over there. God, just the assets as well that I was using are so inferior to what I'm using now. Because these were all pulled, from the internet. Whereas, and this was cropped from the internet, whereas what I'm using now is it's just a lot better, right? Like this is cropped from the internet. And so even though I'd gotten rid of temperature, it was still many, many, many steps to get to where I am now. And that I'm pretty proud of. He still exists. Who are you going to find that's better to be an initiative B? Hey, you're the starting player. You're damn right I am. You'd best believe I'm the starting player. And then the replenishment die is completely gone. So in this game, there were a few more random elements. In the game that I have now, there are almost no random elements. So let's do a shameless plug here. And I'm going to be deleting this version and saving this one and remaking it because all the assets are getting a little bit more confused. Now, every player has a hive, kind of the same here. So I guess we could do a compare and contrast, right? Every player has a hive. And so this little hive section has become what this was. And I think this is a lot nicer. So on your turn, you have all of your bees in the hive, and you will take 3 of them, and you will dedicate them to hive actions or to field actions. Additionally, you can dedicate not 6 of your bees. If you have enough bees, you can swarm. And when you swarm, you lose 6 bees, and you lose 3 honey, and you lose a queen cell, but you get a whole bunch of victory points. This game didn't have victory points. It was whoever builds out their hive first and fills in with the most honey first. Like a lot to do. But in this one, it's all victory points based. So whoever gets the most victory points wins the game at the end of the game. So you take 3 of your bees and you put them in hive or in field. And it's turn-based. So you do your turn, the next player does their 3 bees, the next player does their 3 bees or swarm, the next player does their 3 bees or swarm, and so on and so forth, until all the bees from your bee pool are used. So they might do 3 field actions, and the first bee might scout, which would give them a tree, and the second bee might scout, which would give them a blue, the third bee might scout, which would give them a blue, and there are all sorts of other rules that apply, and now you have blue, which you can forage twice from. Additionally, if you get enough blue, you can forage 3 times from. So a lot of the fundamentals have changed and made for a much more interesting and compelling game. And I am really happy with how this game has progressed and the work that I've put into it. Even this has changed since a couple of days ago, and so has this. But overall, it's exactly the same as it was last week, just the formatting. But God, just this is so different to the game that it has become, and I'm really happy with how it's gone. So I hope you've enjoyed the last look at this version of the B game before it's deleted and this one gets embellished. And hope you have a wonderful, wonderful. So yeah, now you choose what comb you're building. You choose between nectar, pollen, and honey. You can earn new bees through your actions, as opposed to having to just get them automatically. There is weather that's involved in this game: spring, summer, and autumn, rain, overcast, and sun. These symbols have changed. They're a little better now. And it's just it's almost it's almost a completely different game. And very happy with how it's gone. But yeah, I hope that you all have wonderful rest of your day and be